Okay, hi everyone. We're going to look at how to start a remix in Logic. Now, unlike Ableton, Logic doesn't automatically detect the tempo when you drop in your samples. So we're going to have to do one of a few things when approaching a remix in Logic. Now, the first thing you need to do is when you start a new project, go for Empty Project, we're obviously going to want to start with audio tracks. Let's get rid of this. So we're starting with audio tracks. And then we need to drop in our samples. Now, in this particular Panpot remix, it does actually tell me here it's 126 BPM. But I'm going to show you the methods of working out anyway. So I drop in my samples, go for bar 1, very start of the project, and you want it to create new tracks. That way it's going to create you a different track for each sample, like it has done there. And it even names the tracks after the audio file, which is really, really cool. And again, let's do the same with the instruments. And just drop them underneath. Same thing again, create new tracks. Okay, so as we can hear from the kick drum, if I put the click on, solo the kick drum, it's not in time there. So there's a few things we can do. Now the first one, the most easiest, is that it does actually tell me it's 126 BPM. But say you found your own stems, or got it from elsewhere, or using a cappella, and you're not quite sure what the tempo is. There's one of a few methods. First one is in the audio effects in Logic down here. Under metering, there is a BPM counter, and it's pretty accurate. 126, got it straight away. Just to show it on a different track as well, on this bass. Bass, audio effects, metering, BPM counter. .126. There we go. So that's your first option. Second, and this is the sort of old school way before the times of all these fancy meters and stuff, is to try and line up the grid lines of Logic with the transients of, such as your kick drum. So I know my kick drum is doing a 4/4 rhythm. So as I change the tempo, them samples are going to move around. I want to get them lined up with these grid lines. So there we go, I've got it to 126 and they're all nicely lined up. Now the other way I can check that, just to make sure it's not wavering later on in the piece, because say for instance, I go for 125, they look like they're kind of lined up. If I was a bit sloppy, I might think that's lined up. Then go through on one of your other instruments that are, you've got a longer clip. You can hear it's just slightly out of time there. It could be worse in different places. There we go, that was terrible there. So then check, and then you can readjust, put it to 126. You can also use things like tap tempo. So if I search tap tempo, and then tap the spacebar. It's not the most accurate, but if you're struggling with any of them methods, you can use that to get a good ballpark first. So, once we've got the tempo correct, we can use the flex time in Logic, and that's going to lock all of these samples to the grid. So how we put that on is we go up to the top here, and this sort of hourglass shape, click on that, and then all of the tracks that you want to be in flex mode, so you want them locked to the grid like MIDI, just click on flex, and it will put it into that mode. Some of them are analyzers, it takes a little bit of time. It's not quite as instantaneous as Ableton. But it is quite an accurate engine and it is quite good. So you'll notice down the side here as well, you get these different modes that are coming up. Some are going on to slicing, others are going on to polyphonic. And what that is, that's just the same as the warp modes in Ableton. It's how it treats the audio when it's manipulating it to fit the tempo. So percussive things get put into slicing. What that means is each of these hits, these transients, well, basically it will stay where it is, so it will stay on beat 4 in that case. That transient there will stay on beat 3. And the sample itself won't be affected. It will just get, if I were to slow the tempo down, you see the sample looks like it's got smaller. It hasn't. The sample stayed the same and it's just put extra silent in here. Your different modes such as polyphonic, rhythmic, speed, tempophone, they're for treating pitch samples. So polyphonic will try and maintain the same length and also the same pitch. So if we go to one of the ones that's gone into polyphonic mode, such as the brass hook, what it does, it actually stretches out the sample, so that sample's staying the same length in relation to the project. So you can hear how let's put on 5 BPM, make it really extreme. So that's stretched out that sample so that it still takes up like these sort of half a beat here, and it stays exactly the same size at 126, even though it's a lot shorter and snappier. So that's what these different modes do. If you find that you've flexed it and the automatic mode it's gone to, so here it's gone to automatic slicing, there it's gone to automatic polyphonic. If you find it doesn't sound right, then experiment with some of the other modes. That's the best advice at this point. Find the one that sounds the most realistic as you change the tempo. So once these are all in flex, you can hide flex at the top. And the idea is that no matter what you change the tempo to, they stay in the same place in relation to the project, so the rhythm stays the same. There we go, hardcore, breakbeat, techno, whatever. Sweet, so that's how to get your tempo right and how to set the flex up.